Hello folks, this is Dr. Da Vinci. I'm recording my podcast while walking so I can get some fresh air and get some exercise at the same time and share with you my thoughts about the world events. The oil prices are going up. The war is spreading to other countries. It's no longer just Palestine, Israel, Ukraine, and Russia, but Sudan and Yemen and a few other countries on the African continent. So the idea that we're going to have a peaceful summer of 2024 is very unrealistic. Mostly because in the US we're expected to have tremendous drought. The drought that will happen in 2024 in the US and several other countries will be unprecedented. So the commodity prices will skyrocket by approximately 900%. That's a very conservative estimation here. And I haven't been wrong in the past. I'm being very conservative. So if you are looking to invest, you know where to look at. Now that I mentioned these facts. The unfortunate situation with the military conflicts, guess what? Somebody's making money. As you can imagine, the weapons manufacturers are making money hand over fist, which means they're trying to make up for the past 10 years where there was relatively calm and peaceful situation on most continents. So the war in Ukraine started not for the reasons that you've been shown on your television screens. Follow the money, folks. The greedy capitalistic pigs that are devil worshippers are trying to squeeze every dollar, or every $1 billion, I should say. Every $1 billion. Every dollar doesn't fit in this situation. Every $1 billion from this terrible conflict in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine. And as you can imagine, Israel is involved everywhere. They were selling the military equipment to the tune of $40 billion to Azerbaijan. They armed them to the teeth, and that's why Armenia had lost the war in the South Caucasus. The Caucasian region, or the South Caucasus, was commonly known, is a hotbed for the future conflict that is about to happen because of the pipeline that was built in 1987 during the time of the Soviet Union that goes through the Nakhchivan region all the way into what had been known as Artsakh or Nagorno-Karabakh, which has now been overtaken by Azerbaijan. It was taken from Armenia, and people were, in a way, kind of, sort of forced to leave. So they all left that region. 120,000 plus people left the region most commonly known as Nagorno-Karabakh. So the four countries in a region, Georgia, Armenia, Iran, Turkey, and Azerbaijan, are in the process of negotiating a very special economic corridor there's several names, Zangezur and a few other names that it's known by, but Armenia is hesitating because of the loss of control over its territory. Something like $15 billion worth of petroproducts and other goods will be flowing through that special economic corridor if Armenia agrees. If not, this corridor will be built on the other side of the border. Remember, Armenia borders Iran in that part of the corridor, so it will be built on the Iranian side, in which case Armenia will lose out on a portion of the profits if they will refuse to cooperate with that alliance. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, Russia is also a very, very, very very heavily involved partner in that economic development in that region. So I forgot to mention simply, it's actually one of the major parties in that particular deal. So Russia, number one, number two, Turkey, number three, Azerbaijan, and then goes Armenia, and then goes Iran. And I know you might say, well, how is it possible? Iran, such a large country with 65 million population, they're the last one. Well, Iran they have their own kind of just because it borders Armenia doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be a big player. They are going to be, but not as big of a player as Russia and Turkey. Russia and Turkey are basically will be the primary beneficiaries of this agreement, and Armenia just happens to be geographically located in the path of this corridor that will connect all of those parties together. And so it's a very complicated situation, and if it escalates, because the American embassy in the capital city of Armenia, Yerevan, is funding a lot of very dangerous activity. They're trying to disturb peace by hiring agents to spread misinformation, of course, against Russia. Of course, what else can they do? So these paid agents, provocateurs, are walking down the streets of Yerevan and other cities like Gyumri and a few other cities across Armenia, trying to stir up the population to change their opinion of Russia, to be against Russia. In other words, to be more pro-Western. And so that is very, 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 very unfortunate development, because during the Soviet Union times, Armenia and at that time the Russian Republic and the Armenian Republic were essentially part of the same economic system, the Soviet system, that they had so many economic ties, which actually allowed Armenia to more or less be very, very, very prosperous republic of the Soviet Union at that time, during the Soviet times. In 1991, when the Soviet Union collapsed, all of those economic ties had to be, rebuilt. And many of them are still being worked on to be rebuilt. This myth, the myth of being independent, it's farce. It's a game. It's false. There is no such thing as independence. Independence from what? From whom? It's total nonsense. People didn't have in Armenia during the 90s electricity for something like 7 years. Just a few hours during the day they had electricity in Armenia. They couldn't warm up their apartments and houses because the supply of natural gas was cut off, because Georgia, again, now being independent, cut off all supplies, and because of the new sort of alliances that Georgia had in the West, and Armenia relied on those pipelines. And so Armenians had to chop down the woods and all the trees in the city parks of Yerevan and other cities. In other words, they heavily relied on wood-burning methods of keeping themselves warm in their apartments. It was a terrible, terrible situation. I haven't been there. I just watched the pictures of what it was like, but I can only imagine what sort of suffering the entire population went through. And half of the population left Armenia and immigrated to other countries. The United States, Canada, France, Lebanon, a few other countries around the world, because they just couldn't bear it. They didn't want to deal with his nonsense, because of the freedom. So freedom is a misnomer. It's a myth. There's no such thing as freedom or independence. That's total bullshit. Bullshit created by politicians that had never lifted a finger a day in their lives. They just they create these ideas to mislead the masses. And by misleading the masses, they essentially fund certain industries or defund other industries that they deem to be in strict competition. That's why they so many NGOs were created through various underhanded means to defund and to deassemble so many factories across all 15 republics of the former Soviet Union. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of factories and plants were closed down by through Western influenced organizations across the former Soviet republics, especially in the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Basically, they became right now just cock-sucking prostitutes for credit. They just suck dick around street corner for toilet paper just to get the credits. You know that because all of the industries, including the new nuclear power plant in Lithuania, was dismantled because the European Union doesn't need any cheap sources of energy, electrical energy or natural gas or oil, because that would be a significant source of competition. So they turned the three Baltic republics, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, into basically prostitutes for credits. You know, in order to get credits, they have to pretend to be homosexual, transvestite, and essentially promote that kind of a message amongst the population to be in consensus with the rest of the European homosexual pedophile agenda of the European Union. So basically a bunch of pedophiles took over a country using economic means through credits, lines of credits, to the tune of billions of dollars, and they completely deprived those three former republics of the USSR from their own independent means of production. They are completely relying on all supplies coming from the West, particularly from Sweden. All the banking industry right now in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia is 100% motherfucking dominated by the Swedish banks. They deem that territory, they try to sort of retake it, because you see Latvia used to belong to I'm going to take you to the 1600s. Well, that territory used to be Kurlandia, is what it used to be called, but it was fucking Sweden, motherfuckers. And so now the Swedish pedophiles, politicians, tell the Latvian politicians what to say in their social media and their public and their official television broadcasts. Of course, all propaganda now is anti-Russian propaganda. Russia this, Russia that, Russia this, Russia that. And then they get their credits. If they say something pro-Russian, they never get the credits, to lose their jobs. And that's the form of control in the three former Soviet republics, Baltic republics, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. They're basically being hosed from the rear end, the Latvian, Lithuanian, and Estonian politicians without any condoms, group raped by the Western pedophiles. I mean, I'm using very, very PG-13 conservative family language here, but that's what's going on, without Vaseline being raped. So the same goes to the population. So, for instance, the grandfathers who used to participate in World War II in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia and Ukraine now are not allowed, the veterans of World War II in those former Soviet republics are not allowed to celebrate Victory Day against the German Nazi regime as it has been celebrated since 1945. So since 1991, after the collapse of the former Soviet Union, after the Soviet Union collapsed in 91, those three satanic republics, former republics, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, plus Ukraine, got on this special satanic pedophile boat of literally upholding the Nazi military uniforms. So on May 9th, you will see on the streets of Riga, Vilnius, and Tallinn, not the Soviet uniforms, but the German Nazi SS uniforms. Can you believe that? That's what's going on in the three republics. And of course now, the last few years, the Ukraine, by the way, that's how you properly say it in English. It's the Ukraine. It's not Ukraine. It's the Ukraine. The Ukraine, because it's a territory. It's not even a country. It's a territory. It used to be part of the Russian Empire until 1917, Anno Domini. Then from 1917 until 1991, it used to be part of the Soviet Union. So it's never really a country. It's just a territory with a bunch of very, very, very silly people. The only smart person that I know there, his name is something like Brewmeister. He's a philosopher. He teaches at the Kiev University. He's the only guy with a high IQ who speaks multiple languages. He chooses to speak Russian on his YouTube channel. He's got like 3 million views. Look him up. Check him out. Brewmeister. I forget his first name. I think it's either Victor or Yuri or some very common Slavic name. But he is a tremendously gifted intellectually man that is a professor at the Kiev University. So anyway, that's the only smart person in Ukraine. The rest of Ukraine is a bunch of basically hoodlums, thugs, very, very corrupt politicians. Like they have sold their soul for dollars. And so all this aid is going to Ukraine. A third of the American population, the dummies, the American naive little fundamental Christians, they keep working half the year just to feed the Ukrainian military money. That's half of it is immediately, more than half is stolen by the corrupt Ukrainian politicians. Why? Because Ukraine is the most corrupt country and the poorest economically country in Europe. Like anything you give them, they just steal. And immediately they buy, immediately, as soon as it transfers. It goes to Kiev National Bank, downtown Kiev, and immediately from that bank, all of that money is stolen. It goes according to the hierarchy of the all the people, on the totem pole. So during the days of Yanukovych,
19 minutes 3 seconds, 2059 steps.
So we got some steps here going,
111.
No, what I was talking about is how they steal money. All the funding, it comes from stupid gringos in America. It keeps working, keep working. Like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? Like, I never gave permission to give our money to Ukraine. But see, it's a money laundering operation. So the American capitalistic pigs, the pedophiles, the dirty politician. Get this, Joe Biden's motherfucking son, get this. Joe Biden's son, his name is Hunter Biden. He's in his motherfucking 50s. He's an old man now. Just got his $80,000 facelift at a New York City little dental clinic. He got the teeth replaced because he's a junkie. He's been on drugs since he was 14, man. He had no teeth left. So he paid his father, somebody paid $80,000 to get his teeth fixed. He looks like a decent human being. Anyway, so Hunter Biden is basically been recording all of his sexual escapades, meaning hooker sessions. So he would pay $10,000 plus lots of money for drugs. I don't know, 20 grand for drugs, for daily motherfucking drug orgies. And that he would videotape all of that, like in plain open sight. And then post it on there's a channel called HunterBidenLaptopMedia.com. You can see over 5,000 videos of his escapades with underage women. The only thing, as far as we know, he never crossed to molesting boys, but he was molesting young girls as young as 12 years old. So that's Hunter Biden, motherfucker. And his father actually was behind bombing of Yugoslavia in 1999. He was like he was pushing that agenda. You could find on YouTube a 57-second video where he says, I ordered the fucking bombing of Yugoslavia. I ordered the people to be killed. I ordered the fuckers to be burned to the ground, motherfuckers. That's how you talk. That shows you his passion against the people of Yugoslavia. Is Joe Biden, motherfucking satanic motherfucking whore. I hope he will burn for all eternity in motherfucking hell. He's not a human being. He's like the devil incarnate. And his son filmed himself having sexual orgies with drugs, while he had an illegal gun on himself. Now, what sort of a family is that? That's the first family. That's the president of the United States currently. Can you believe this? At the time of filming this, Joe Biden approved Hunter Biden's having sex with his older brother's wife. So get this. Hunter Biden goes out and has regular sexual intercourse with his older brother's wife, and the father of the family, the patriarch, Joe Biden, Satan incarnate. I hope he has a heart attack like tomorrow, man. It just fucking dies, motherfucker, and burns in motherfucking hell, bitch. And Joe Biden approves that intercourse, that sexual relationship of Hunter Biden with his brother's wife. Her name is Kathleen. Now, can you fucking believe that, motherfuckers? I mean, this is fucked up. This is like beyond. Now, I'm just getting warmed up here. It gets beyond that. They actually eat children. They're cannibals. So there's a club called Pizzagate. It's a chain of restaurants in Washington, D.C. and in New York City, where they kidnap children across usually the Midwestern states like Nebraska, Texas, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Iowa. So they have these scouts. Scouts are simply people who have normal jobs, usually with banks, at banks. They work in banks, like middle-level management. If you Google this guy, who was just imprisoned, his name is Lawrence King of Nebraska. So Lawrence King, for many decades, has been searching or scouting for these. Now get this: the children that he was after, so he was getting for these pedophiles, they were kind of snatched from playgrounds, like school playgrounds, and also his favorite spot was orphanages, because nobody's going to be looking for them. Usually Catholic orphanages. So if an orphan goes missing, well, there's no parents to essentially be behind the search. And so he would put them in his van. He would schmooze them real good. I mean, he was working at a bank, so he knew how to schmooze customers, clients who would walk in. I think maybe he was a loan officer at a bank, commercial loans or something like that. That's not very important. The point is, he was a schmoozer. He knew how to talk to people. And he would put him on a private jet. It was a Gulfstream 550. And they would fly him from Omaha, Nebraska to Sioux City, Iowa. Then they were going to dislodge a great portion of those children, ages 6 to 12, both girls and boys. And then so half of the children were victimized in the Midwestern states. And the reason why is Sioux City, God only knows, but probably there was a hub there, distribution hub for pedophiles that would, distribute some of those children to Chicago, pedophiles. Chicago, Kansas City, and St. Louis, and the whole Midwestern area, and Des Moines, Iowa, all those cities, I mean, the entire Midwest. And then the rest of the kids would be flown on the same Gulfstream 550 private jet straight to Washington, D.C. And then just a bit of some of them would be driven from there to New York City for the pedophiles in New York City. And so then what they would do with these kids, they would be held in basements at these private homes and at these underground restaurants. So when people would walk in, By the way, to belong to that club, it's like $1 million, something like that, astronomical amount, just to be part of that loop. And so basically, these clients would walk into those designated restaurants, and they would order food, and they would use these code words for if they wanted a boy or a girl. Then they would take them to those dungeons or basements where they would essentially molest them sexually, kill them, drink their blood, and they would then dispose of the bodies, or somebody would dispose of. And the art form of that was kind of, the art form of drinking blood and all that was kind of promoted by an artist from Los Angeles, originally from Yugoslavia. Her name is Marina Abramovich. She called it spirit cooking, if you look that up. Spirit cooking is when you eat hors d'oeuvres from corpses, from dead bodies. So that's what they do. So those 33,000 emails from Hillary Clinton's server or computer were missing, but partially found on Weiner's, Anthony Weiner. It was a senator from New York State. So Hillary erased all the emails that were gone, but half of those emails, 33,000 or approximately 15,000 emails, were found on Anthony Weiner's laptop, because his wife was an assistant to Hillary Clinton, and they were all part of this clan or this circle or clique where they would get together. They called them pool parties, where they would sexually abuse children, then they would eat them. Half of them were eaten, the other half were just murdered and just basically smashed with a hammer, and they would cut their heads off and stuff like that. That's what they do for fun, folks. That's exactly what they do for fucking fun. Those fucking pedophiles, motherfuckers. It's unreal, man. It's fucking unreal. That's America, man. Welcome to America. So when I go, like, in America, like, if you don't live in America, I'm going to tell you, when you walk into any post office across America, any post office, you see these missing children's pictures of children who went missing every day. And nobody really rings an alarm here. But let me give you the statistic straight from the FBI's website, folks. FBI.gov, missing persons report. Every single month, approximately 1 million people go missing in the United States of America. Every single month. Minimum of about 600,000, and the most was like 3 million that went missing. So it ranges between 600K to 3 million. And nobody knows where they go. Now, I just described it to you, where they go. They go on the dinner plates of the elites, or, first they're going to be abused, then they're going to be exploited, then they're going to be eaten. So, like when we say, well, that Angus beef was great, those monsters say, oh, that chubby child from Texas was super nice. That's how they describe their meals that they eat when they eat children, you see? That's what they do. Can you believe that? So if you have that kind of a dark, pedophile, Satan-infused, demon-worshipping mentality and environment, and everything is kind of like it's a norm for them. By the way, going back to Anthony Weiner, see, those emails were found that Hillary Clinton erased on that were back and forth to them. So John Podesta was on them, like all of the politicians, all the tycoons. Of course, Jeffrey Epstein was there, Bill Clinton was there. I mean, you name a politician, he was on. He was flying on those private jets and to those islands and to those pool parties in LA with Marina Abramovich, who was hosting those parties, and on and on and on and on and on. So Anthony Weiner, how he got caught is he started, again, he's a pedophile. He's in jail now. He started sexting or sending his private parts, private organs, his penis pictures to underage girls or just females who worked in his office. Like he got a kick out of it. So those girls, those women, young women, maybe they were 17, 18, they were interns. So they complained, went to the police, they arrested the guy. And they they looked at his laptop and they found 15,000 emails going to Hillary Clinton about those pool parties. So in other words, Hillary Clinton was successful only for a short time by hiding all that information, you see. So folks, that's what's going on in America. This is the American ruling class, or what's also known as the establishment. That's how they entertain themselves. Now, can you just imagine the level of depravity, the level of devil worship, the level of Anthony Weiner, he has I would say a beautiful, attractive wife. I forget her name. She has this Arabic name because she's from Lebanon. So she speaks Arabic, she speaks English, and she is the assistant to Hillary Clinton, who was at the time, she was the Department of State. She was the head of the State Department in Washington, D.C. So we're talking about the elite of the elites, and this guy was sexting. I mean, this is nothing. So what can we do? Like regular people who know about these things, who maybe you just found out about these things. Well, first is the awareness. Second, we need to join forces and expose this further. You need to duplicate this message, paraphrase it if you must, put it on Twitter, YouTube, all social media, Rumble, and just raise the awareness so that people would know that basically if we only knew how bad everything has been managed or mismanaged, the budget of the U.S. government. So essentially all of that is being stolen. Let me tell you why. Because when they tell you that the Federal Reserve prints money, they don't really print money, folks. Remember, my degree is in economics. When I was a freshman, I was 17 years old. Our economics professor took us all of our students of our class, economics class, to one of those branches, to Federal Reserve. So I saw with my own eyes what's going on inside the building. It was like a 4-hour long excursion or tour of the Federal Reserve branch. So they only print, or they actually sort physical cash that's getting old, because it gets old and they kind of get rid of it. They shred it in very specialized shredders, and then they make a note, and then they order more new brand new dollar bills to replenish the old dollar bills that they destroyed. But what they really do at those branches, they're basically a bunch of conference rooms. They make decisions, and so and also they have a computer room. But in those days they had very large mainframe computers. This is how they print money, quote unquote, print money with mainframe computers. So here's how they do it. Remember, that's my degree, and I've been to one of those branches with someone giving us a tour. So this is how they print, quote unquote, print money. They don't actually print it physically. They create it out of thin air with computers, with zeros and ones using computers. Kind of like similar to how Bitcoin is being mined, except Bitcoin requires a lot of computational power. That's why they require so much energy. They're very energy hungry. But those other computers, they don't need any of that. It's basically a sophisticated program that creates a certain number of, let's say, they create them obviously, but not by the billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, or today is trillions. So what they do is basically the computer keeps track. So it creates on one side of the column, let's say, one side of the column, it creates a new entry of, let's say, $100 billion. On the other side of the column, it basically buys with this newly created money U.S. Treasuries, and then that is being converted into loans to commercial banks at 0% interest. Then those commercial banks lend it out to regular retail bank customers. That's, let's say, 5%, 10% interest, and that's how money and then you walk in as a customer to your bank and say, okay, I need a loan for my car or for my house. They give you a loan, and that's how money becomes real money in an American economy, and in the world for that matter. So that's how they print money. So that started happening since 1971, when the Federal Reserve decided to detether meaning disconnect US dollars from all precious metals, gold and silver. So meaning they used to be backed by silver and gold initially, but then in 1971, Anno Domini, President Richard Nixon, I believe it was August the 15th, it was a Sunday evening, when he read a piece of paper, an announcement that U.S. government went bankrupt or defaulted on their debts. He didn't quite read it that way, because it was written in such a way that they just simply disconnected the U.S. dollars from all precious metals. But the point is, the decision behind it, so they could print, quote unquote, print or create more money in unlimited quantities, because prior to 1971, U.S. dollars were connected to a certain quantity of physical gold and silver in the United States Treasury. And after 1971, they could print whatever they want. That was for over 50 years, they've been printing money or creating money out of thin air, basically. It's an ingenious scam, con, or this is just unbelievably, like, basically ordinary citizens, they're just scared to go over the speed limit, posted speed limit. Let's say on most American highways it's 70 miles an hour. If they go 75, they're scared shitless, they're pissing their pants, so to speak. But these monsters who are really, really in power, this is what ordinary people in America have a very, very difficult time comprehending or understanding or grasping. These monsters, they print money out of thin air. They steal all the money through various wars, and it's a very, 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 very...
38 minutes, 13 seconds.
See, I'm walking fast.
4,130 steps.
Walking fast, huh?
120.
Yeah, so they steal the money. It's called embezzlement, through various schemes. There are so many that it would take me like 40 days nonstop to list them all. But they're very sophisticated, so you can't really accuse a certain politician or a certain person that they're actually stealing money. So what they do is they actually try to basically fund. There's lobbyists, which are really consultants in D.C. that promote certain industries, right? So weapons manufacturers, pharmaceutical industries, oil and gas industries, huge. When fracking became a thing in the United States, about 10 years ago or so, maybe 15 years approximately, that became a huge industry. So they basically, in America, could get natural gas by putting pressurized water like two miles down below into the ground, and that brings up the natural gas. It's very cheap. But you might say, well, what is the? Nothing's that easy, right? The side effect became earthquakes. Yes, there are massive destructive earthquakes happening all over Texas, Oklahoma, I believe in some parts of Texas that previously was never a thing. So they pumped a lot of water under pressure. Not only does that poison the water supply in those states, but as a side effect, they're having a tremendous number of tremors or pretty serious earthquakes, on the Richter scale, 4.0 or up to 7.0 Richter scale. So anyway, I'm went off the tangent just a bit. So the money, not only these corrupt schemers, politicians, not only are they, stealing, embezzling billions and billions of dollars by funding their corrupt schemes through weapons manufacturers, creating wars, hiring so-called Beltway Bandits to create wars, like the war in Ukraine, the war in Iraq. Remember General Powell, when he was at the United Nations, conference, he showed a little vial with white powdered stuff in that little glass jar, glass vial, chemical set vial. He said, "We know this is Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction." Do you know what it was? As the whole world later found out, it was nothing but powdered laundry detergent that they bought at Walmart. And they deceived the whole world just to start a war, bring in the troops. It wasn't even a war. It's called a Special Military Operation Desert Storm in Iraq. Why? Because it was extremely profitable. They just false accusations, this and that, and they made in the process of that invasion, the fake invasion, illegal invasion, the occupation, and stealing all the natural resources in Iraq, the United States economy benefited to the tune of, and all those corrupt politicians, of course, for those companies, they benefited to the tune of $1.5 trillion. That's a very, very conservative estimate, you see. And so that's how the system works. You might say, why? Well, that's why. They do it because that's how they live. That's how they're able to buy their 10th home in all over the world. Price tag is of no consequence. $30 million, $40 million, $50 million. That's how those yachts are being bought. The yachts, the luxury estates, their children's education is being paid for. From the prep schools to the colleges, Ivy League colleges, to on and on and on. It's just that's life in America. So if you're in that 1%, you have to sell your soul to the devil, because literally that's what it is. Because they have a lot of compromising materials on you. So if you don't play along at some point, let's say if you decide, I'm no longer part of this group, I just changed my mind, you can't just leave that clan. They will have a lot of compromising video, audio materials, photographic material, all kinds. So you can't really leave. Once you join that club of super rich, wealthy pedophile, children-eating cannibals, powerful people who truly run America, which is only about a few thousand people there. If you count, maybe 5,000 people. I don't know the exact number, but it's anywhere between 3,000 to 5,000 people that run America and the world, that belong to that club. Well, they reap all the benefits of this. That's how they're able to start wars and not be court-martialed for killing. How many, like 500,000 Ukrainians are dead right now because they were pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing the NATO expansion towards the Russian border until poor Vladimir Putin finally had to do something about it. Because he warned them since 2014, don't come any closer, let's just, what are you doing? You're just encroaching on our essentially on our, it's becoming an issue for us in terms of our national security. And nobody listened in the West. And so finally, they got him. Because I've been trying to get him all this time, and he refused, and he was maneuvering around like a true diplomat. I'm talking about Vladimir Putin. Now finally they got him involved in a full-blown war on February 20, I believe it was 24th of 2000 I think it was 22, I believe. I believe it was 24th of 2022. But anyway, if you listen to my podcasts, a year before, I said it publicly, a year before the war in Ukraine started, I've suggested to all of our investors, all of our business associates to disengage from Ukraine. It was, I think it was something like June or April of 2021, and I said it publicly. I said there will be a war, major invasion of Ukraine scheduled sometime towards the end of February of 2022. Nobody listened. When it happened, everybody started calling me saying, how did you know? Which, by the way, folks, it's the wrong question to ask. I have my own parameters that I watch all the time, economic parameters, publicly available, from publicly available sources. It's not like I have this special source. No. It's just a certain analytical skills that I have. The point is, what is next? That's what you should be asking in this Western pedophile regime, this tyrannical system, man. Like, people think it's democracy. Just remember this. As soon as people in America talk about democracy, that means it's the pedophile ruling class that want to start another war. Democracy means war. There's no such thing. There is no democracy. In America, all decisions are made through oligarchy. So oligarchs, such as, if you don't know what that means, it's people with, generational money, such as the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts, and so on and so forth, the Carnegies. Yeah, Andrew Carnegie was, I believe, at that time, the richest man on the planet, which was very hard to estimate. But if we were to try to estimate his net worth in today's dollars, he had something close to $800 billion at the time of his death. And Mr. Rockefeller, when he died, he had close to $600 billion. That's after the federal government split up all of his oil companies. It's just a small sliver of whatever he had was $600 billion in today's money, adjusted for inflation and all that. So those are the oligarchs. Those people in the former Soviet republics, the 123 so-called, that they call them oligarchs, but they're just thieves. They're just thugs. Some of them were mathematicians, but that doesn't change anything. They basically stole or privatized the factories, plants, and assets of the former Soviet Union that was estimated to be $15 trillion. All stolen. All stolen because they were coached. How to do that? They were coached by Western private equity firms, such as Bain Capital. Bain Capital is just one out of a million firms that is to this day steal natural resources from other countries. Bain Capital, guess who works there? Guess, take a wild guess. A guy from Utah, Mr. Mitt Romney. Yes, Mr. Mitt Romney. He made his billions by basically stealing natural resources from South America, because in South America people are not very sophisticated, so they just come, they bribe local politicians, and they take all the money. For example, if you remember, that was many years, some of you may not know this, but there was an energy company run by Ira Rennert Energy. And so Ira Rennert had all kinds of mineral mines or metal ore mines or all kinds of mines across the United States. So one of them was heavily polluting the local water supply and everything else. In a little town called Herculaneum. You can look that up. Herculaneum is located approximately 100 miles south of St. Louis, Missouri. I believe it's in Franklin County, Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. But just look it up. Herculaneum, near Potosi, Missouri, where there's a famous or infamous death, what do you call, capital punishment facility where they kill people at Potosi, Missouri. But anyway, that's another story that connected to the Nazi Germany, that an engineer from that Potosi facility, an engineer, his name is Fred Myers. He went to Germany, examined all those Nazi concentration camps, and said that's not possible to kill people, gas people, because everybody would die and the whole thing would explode. Because he's an expert. He's the world expert who builds those facilities that kill people with gas. But he confirmed all that was hoax. Nobody was gassing anybody because, number one, it's free labor. Why would you want to kill your free labor? Number two, based on the facilities, you can't use that kind of a gas because it would kill everyone and that would explode. You end up in a massive explosion. So that's all hoax, fake. And so as soon as that guy, the engineer from that Potosi facility, exposed what Norman Finkelstein was saying, that it's a mafia, this whole, this made-up word, Holocaust, it did not happen, because Dr. Finkelstein's mother went through Nazi concentration camps, and his father survived also Nazi concentration camps. And from the stories that his parents told him, they had swimming pools, racetracks to run on, to exercise, because they were essentially free labor. They were called labor camps, not concentration camps. They were called labor camps. about 20 of them across Europe. And so those people were there to work, not to be killed. Nobody was killed. So Norman Finkelstein was a historian. He taught history at Hunter College in New York City. And he is the most honest person on the face of the earth with principles. And so he went against this fake propaganda that Jews were killed by Germans, 6 million. No. According to all official records, according to International Red Cross and all of the official records from those so-called concentration camps, only 279,000 Jews were killed. Why did they present higher numbers? Is to basically get more money in compensation, retribution from the German government. Do you know how much they got? Remember, this is a kind of a dialogue I'm having with you. They got 125 motherfucking US dollar equivalent from the German government in compensation over the years. The fake state of Israel, which was created by David Ben-Gurion, who was a criminal. He used to kill people in Poland. He's originally from Poland, opportunist. Saw an opportunity in Israel, went there in 1948, started this shebang called Israel, which is not even a state. And he did not even believe in God. Remember, they keep talking about God, the Bible. They fucking shit on the Bible, man. They don't believe in God. Remember, the pedophiles. So David Ben-Gurion, a professional killer, a criminal, with a rap sheet that is 2 inches thick, he was killing Polish wealthy people for money. That's what he did for a living. Went to Israel, and they need tough people like that. He's like basically Al Capone of Hebrew extraction. So his name is David Ben-Gurion. They even named an airport in Israel after this monster. Created a fake state with Rothschild's money. Yes, the Rothschild banking family had funded the whole fake creation of the state of Israel. They even okayed it with Joseph Stalin. They said, Mr. Stalin, would you have any objections to us building the state? He says, no, do whatever you want, as long as it doesn't, he just basically said, I don't care. So they made sure that the Soviet Union didn't have any claims, because at that time the only power that could rescind that agreement or just militarily squash that bunch of criminals was the Soviet Union. So they even, can you believe that? They even okayed it with Joseph Stalin himself in 1948. He said, I don't give a damn. So they built it. They exiled or killed 700,000 local Palestinians, Arabs, for the so-called Jews to get in there. The whole thing was a fucking fake, man. Takeover. So anyway, so that's Norman Finkelstein. As I, again, got off the tangent just a little bit here. But the point of the story is this. Now, get this, folks. So the engineer from Potosi plant confirmed that this whole thing was a fake. You could not gas people like that through the shower heads overhead. You can't do that. He's an expert. He built the Potosi facility that kills people with gas. He confirmed. After that, he lost his job. Same thing happened with Norman Finkelstein. He lost his history job in New York City. He went to teach in Chicago. He lost his job in Chicago because his what's his name? Arthur Borkovich, or Rubenstein, or something like that, Silverstein. The guy that's a big attorney in New York City, he, because of his vendetta against Finkelstein, he could not get a job after that anyway. He could not teach after he exposed this lies about the Holocaust, you see. So anyway, the reason I mentioned Finkelstein is because Ira Rennert, that was the original story. So he had this ore mining operation in Herculaneum, Missouri, which is south of St. Louis. And children were born with deformities, birth defects, 6 fingers and, 2 heads, something like that. That was in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, fined him and gave him a cease and desist order. But they couldn't really do anything because he had private armed security in all of his facilities. Armed, again, criminals. They really liked us. Jews really like to fire criminals. Ira Rennert is the richest man in New York with the largest physical property, estate, that's visible from the International Space Station. It's all made out of marble. Its size is not measured in square feet, but in square miles. 2.2 square miles. Look him up. He gave a $23 million wedding gift to his daughter for their wedding, as a wedding gift. $23 million penthouse, all paid for. And she married, of course, the leading Jewish lawyer in New York City. That's how you do it, man. That's how if you wonder, how do you get that apartment on the 84th floor? Well, that's how you get it. Ira Renner got it. How did Ira get his billions? Well, he got a lot of earth materials from the ground in Missouri, poisoned a lot of local poor kids, and he bribed all the local politicians until FBI got involved. So he didn't respond to EPA. His private guards, fully armed, would not allow the EPA agents to have any kind of effect on his criminal operations. So finally, the FBI came in. Hundreds and hundreds of fully armed FBI agents, guns drawn, came to his facility, arrested every motherfucker, fucking criminal, even those gun-holding security guards. And they shut down his operation for good in the United States of America. Guess what Ira Renner did? Do you think he's going to just walk away from his money-making criminal operation?
Duration 57 minutes.
No.
49 seconds.
See, I've been walking for 57 minutes.
6,212 steps.
6,000 steps.
Heart rate 123.
Oh, my goodness, 123. That's, I feel like I'm 17 here. So Ira Renner picked up his equipment, and guess what he did with it? Do you think he sold and retired? Because he already had $8 billion at the time. That's his net worth, approximate. That's the one that could be counted in U.S. territory. The other half was probably in Switzerland and other offshore jurisdictions. So what he did, he actually moved all of his equipment to South America, Peru, Uruguay, other countries, bribed all of the politicians there, and they allowed for him to do the same dirty business in South America. That's Ira Renner, a typical Jewish business entrepreneur who doesn't give a damn about the planet or the people. So all of these people, like 25 years later, the native South American people, native as in, I mean, they belong to certain tribes, that's what I mean, who happened to be, like one of them was a lawyer by education, by trade. So he's a professional, like he has an office, he goes to office. So he decided, because his tribe's territory was completely poisoned with very dangerous toxins. So he got involved in a massive lawsuit to the like $16 billion. He won the case against Ira Renner's operation, and then in the last minute, he disappeared, the lawyer disappeared, and the money was never dispersed, so they got rid of him. So that's how they operate. They kill people because they don't want to pay you the money. They don't want to be influenced. That's criminal enterprise of the United States of America. The most tyrannical, corrupt, satanic, pedophile system in the world. So if people in Ukraine think they're very corrupt, no, they're just children compared to the American corrupt politicians. They're learning through all these interactions. They're learning how it's done in America. Over the centuries, how the system of corruption has been perfected like this. If you go against them, you disappear, man. You fucking disappear. Like if you threaten their money, their safety, you disappear. You completely disappear. That's why the population needs to basically start talking about it. So they can't remove 8 billion people. So if 8 billion people on planet Earth would all know about this, they can be decisive about doing something about it. Because as a collective force, if we will all just basically point our fingers and laugh at them, saying, no, I know you just killed that politician so you can make more money. South America, you killed this, you stole that. And Ukraine, there's a fake war. It's all about the money. Through those $60 billion that was given, it was all stolen. Half of it was stolen by the Ukrainian corrupt politicians. The other half was stolen by the American politicians through kickbacks. Kickbacks is a big business in Washington D.C. It's the darkest city on earth. So anyway, going back to Ira Renner. So because of that, that's how they make money in almost anything, any industry, any pharmaceutical or the ores that they mine in Missouri, or in South America, or energy sector, or you name it. That's how they do money. Basically, an average patient in America, in the United States of America, an average, let's say, diabetic or even pre-diabetic, represents approximately $1 million to the doctor and to the whole system. So they try to keep them alive. Once the system finds something wrong with you in America, it's not a path to recovery or healing. It's a path to being drugged or over-drugged, then over-treated with, let's say, chemotherapy. And that whole process represents about $1 million from that patient to the healthcare system in America. It's highly, highly, highly complex. The billing of it is just to bill the customer through the insurance companies and this and that. That's another mess. That's another. Don't even get me started with insurance companies that's another conversation for another 8 hours right there. But you get the picture. Basically, it's all a satanic, corrupt, super corrupt system that operates in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars annually, including fake honey that's coming from China. Now, the fake honey industry is worth about $350 billion a year. But many people don't realize that it's highly toxic. It's in 99.99999% of all products in America and the Western countries. So fake honey, $350 billion, comes from China. The Chinese brilliant chemists constantly update the formula so it cannot be detected. In America, there's only one laboratory that tests honey for whether it's fake or not, for its authenticity. It's located in the state of Virginia. Why only one? Because they put all of their efforts, the most brilliant American chemists, and they barely keep up with the being able to detect fake honey that arrives to America from China in these huge 50-gallon barrels, that this usually transport oil in, petrol products in, or crude oil. So in Europe, that lab is located in Frankfurt, Germany. It's the only lab in Western Europe that is able to detect and alert the industry authorities that there's fake honey. No other lab, no other chemist, no other individual in Europe or in America outside of those two labs in Frankfurt and in the state of Virginia are able to detect this. That's how sophisticated it is. And they're playing catch-up game with the Chinese chemists meaning they're trying to catch up with the constant, constantly reformulated or updated formula that is getting harder and harder to detect as fake honey. So in other words, they're barely able to keep up with the detecting and stopping the supply of honey in Europe and in America. That's $350 billion industry. Everything is fake in America. So the honey is added to they even stopped adding into honey. They basically started just pouring that fake honey into the bottles with labels that say really raw honey or unfiltered honey or organic honey. It's all fake honey from America. And so when people eat that, they have major pancreatic failures. Which, by the way, the translation meaning they become pre-diabetic, then diabetic, then their limbs get amputated. But first they get treated for that. Remember that each patient represents approximately $1 million to the healthcare system in America. Now, I'm not even counting the insurance company fraud that's going on right now. I'm just saying just on average. So when a doctor sees his patient or her patient, that's $1 million to his budget for the hospital, the practice where he works. So as you can see, that entire operation is fake from A to Z in America. Like, in other words, even churches here preach this I'm not proselytizing anybody. I suggest you keep on going wherever you're going, to the church or the mosque, wherever you're going, or the temple if you're part of the Hindu tradition. I'm not trying to proselytize or change your mind. I'm just saying even churches in America, they preach this new, what's called prosperity gospel, which is totally bogus idea that if you just give 10% or more, the more you give, the more you'll get. That's kind of a nonsense. So these pastors have, like, for example, there's a pastor from Texas. He has his own private airport, his private estate with his private security detail of like 24 former Marines to guard him constantly. Like, he looks like he's the president of America with special secret service around him. Like, why would a pastor want 24 armed guards, former Marines, 24/7 guarding his life? That's what I want to know. Do you know his name? He just bought his 5th private jet, Gulfstream 550, and upgraded it to the tune of $12 billion just to upgrade the upholstery and all the chairs inside, made it nicer. All money was donated by the parishioners of his church. Do you know who I'm talking about? Look him up. His name is Kenneth Copeland of Texas. He was recently interviewed by Inside Edition in Joplin, Missouri. Again, Missouri comes across here on the radar. Joplin, Missouri. He was caught there by, I think her name is Linda Ferrara or something like that. A wonderful investigative journalist. So she cornered him at this parking lot, at this garage of that church where he was preaching after his service was over. And because she's a female, the security detail did not tackle her, because she's a female, very petite, very, a very attractive woman with a microphone, not much harm, right? Well, around the corner came a guy with a camera that was transmitting that reportage live, that was broadcasted live to the studio. So you could see in that episode that Kenneth Copeland was so cornered by her questions that he said he will never fly commercial because all the demon-possessed people fly in this aluminum can. He doesn't want to be flying with these demon-possessed people. So that's why he needed the private jet. So anyway, he made that public statement. And so she questioned him. She says, Mr. Copeland, why do you talk about regular people like that? My grandfather was a pastor, and that's not the lifestyle that he led. It was all about chastity, poverty, and family values, and you live in a lap of luxury, etc. Well, you could see that Kenneth Copeland wanted to choke this female reporter, with his 2 hands, as he was reaching out to grab her by the throat, and then he noticed the camera recording that, and he stopped in the middle of his action, like he was gonna basically get rid of her. He couldn't hold. He like, she's got him. She's really got him red-handed with everything. He didn't expect to be cornered somewhere in Joplin, Missouri, at some church after services, and his security detail couldn't do anything about this. Reporter, the female reporter. I forget her name. It's like Jennifer Ferrara or something like that. You can look it up on YouTube. It's really all available for free. I mean, just Google it. But the most remarkable part is that he got into the role of, remember, he plays a role. It's very hard to just get the real Kenneth Copeland. But you could see the transition from him being real, like he reached out, wanted to grab her throat, to choke her to death, and playing the role of Jesus wants you to be saved, and you don't understand the gospel, the Abrahamic gospel, a bunch of bullshit, basically, line he gave to her. But the point is, the world saw, it's like 15 million or something like that, 15 million or 13 million views right now. You could see what he said to her, how he wanted to grab her by the throat, and how he simply said, none of your damn business, missy. It's a typical, Texan way of responding. So anyways, watch that. So that's sort of the satanic, corrupted, the ideology of corruption is even prevalent in American churches, of so-called mega churches, because that's what he operates. He has a mega church. Mega church is a church that has over 1,000 parishioners or 1,000 members. So I don't know, but I think his church has something like 10 or 15,000 members, just at his church in Texas alone. But yes, on his private property, he has private hangars for his planes that are guarded 24/7. Anyway, this is just to give you an idea, folks, what we're living in today. And if you are somewhat religious, biblically inclined, or if you follow the Quran, the message in the Quran is almost identical to the biblical prophecy, prophetic message that we are living today, my friends, in the days of Noah. So just like in the days of Noah, people were, basically were getting married and being given in marriage and having their daily fun, and they missed the boat, no pun intended. They missed the boat, meaning they missed the warnings. So are we now. We're living in this crazy times where at some point will come the day of reckoning for everything we've been doing as a civilization, as a human race. And when the day comes, my point is simply to point out that these wars that are starting, that might turn into very easily into a global nuclear war between Russia and the United States and China. All of them will be involved. Why? Because see, those pedophiles, let me give you a psychological profile of those people. They don't care about the fact that 8 billion people will die in a nuclear war. Do you know why? Because they'll be escorted, rushed into their nuclear bunkers that are located 300 feet below surface, that are staffed and stuffed with stuff that will carry them over for the next 6 years. They have staff and they have stuff. Meaning food to eat and the oxygen and water. It's like luxury condominiums down below ground, 300 feet under. They will sustain their life. So in other words, after the war will be over, all the world leaders will still be alive because they'll be hiding in their nuclear bunkers, you see? That's why I decided to record this message, just to warn you that we must pray for peace in this world with some kind of common, just basically, we're at the brink of a nuclear war, I believe. That will start just like the war in Ukraine started, slowly. You know, how Putin got in, just slowly entangled in that war by the pedophiles, by the American pedophile ruling class, the weapons manufacturers, all that. So we must be ready. We must have our own, some kind of primitive but still nuclear shelters. And it started to rain, so I'm going to end this wonderful podcast. God bless you. Take care. We'll see you at our next podcast. Don't forget to share this wonderful message with your family and friends so they could be educated again. So yeah, it started to come down here. I don't know if you could see the raindrops, but yeah, I'm going to call it an evening. I walked for over an hour and over 7,000, 8,000 steps. So see you at the top. No stress. We must be strong. If you want to learn more, you can. Dr. Wilson and I were recording an online course to teach you all these things: how to survive this war, how to make money in this AI-controlled world of the near future, and how to be healthy, how to lose weight, how to live to be 200 years old. We're creating this material for you so you can learn what we've learned over the years. My goodness, where's my umbrella, man? It started to really come down. So see you at the top. God bless you, and stay in touch. Take care.